Hello, historical people. Order of the Blade people. Again, I'm just chucking loads of Order of the Blade shit out there now. Fuck the rest of the world, eh? So no, I keep giving Longsword all this attention, and I fucking hate Longsword. So let's go on something cool. Saber, proper weapon. Okay, it's got hand protection, so I can stand out there and defend myself. Okay, whilst also looking very spiffing at times. Basic bullshit for Saber, okay? Something that the way our syllabus works is it's kind of just all designed for longsword slash whatever, okay? Two-handed weapons. That's kind of the main thing that we base a lot of the teachings around, a lot of the counters and a lot of the whatever. So this is my attempt at a bit of a single-hander's guide to the order syllabus, I suppose, maybe. Okay, because there are a few little considerations and stuff like that. I'm going to go over positions to stand in to begin with, okay? Because the problem with Saber is basic Saber is all of Saber, right? Obviously, we are a mixed weapon group. So when we say Saber, this does sort of translate off to all other single-handed weapons. So unfortunately, a lot of people that want to come and do arm and sword, they get roped in with our lads that want to do Saber, broadsword, and all that shit. So there is difference, okay? You've got two options with wherever you stand when we're doing single-handed stuff, okay? Obviously, the most common that we see is the bowl forward sort of guard. This is pretty much your main stance, okay? This is what we call terce or third guard, okay? Why is it the third guard when it's the first I'm talking about? Because old people wrote shit, okay? For what we're concerned with, this is your first guard. This is elbow, what's the best way to say? Your elbow is tucked in to your hip, near enough, and the sword is facing off to the side. Okay. From here, I am pistoning the arm out, and it's a nice, light, quick cut, and I return there. Okay. The second, which is preem, which means first. Fuck's sake. So basically, you got your outside guard, okay, which is your terce or whatever, elbow tucked, fucking fingers pointing that way, blade pointing that way. That comes out like a little piston, okay? After you've shot that out, likelihood is they're going to throw something back. So you guard the top. This can be sort of bolted right like that. Typically, you'd want to hang it a little bit more. Okay, this is your hanging guard. Okay, and this blocks shit to your head. Okay, the reason we hang it like this, or maybe sometimes coming over here, is so when they do hit you, it naturally sends that over. Okay, you've seen saber fights before, I hope. It goes ping, 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 ping. Something like that is kind of classic saber. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. Unfortunately, that's just how things go. Okay, it's a very snipey sort of affair. Right, you don't get a lot of saber grapples and stuff. A couple of people that try it, and I love it, but you don't get a lot of it because it's a very quick wrist focused weapon. As you get on with it. That being said, okay, this is the one I used to always fuck up. And this is your other guard, and that is your inside guard, because it protects the inside of your body, I suppose. Is here, okay? And it is at belly level, okay? I used to always block up here, okay? Or more like this. And it leaves such a gap open. So from here, you're basically just turning the arm over, okay? So your elbow almost still stays at that hip. Because from here, you've got a nice little springboard to send horizontal attack out, uppercut out, or just a straight cut out. Okay. And this is one thing about these positions that I think I mentioned it in the longsword one, but we call things guards, okay, but actually they're just good positions to work from because they provide some protection and then an ability to deliver attacks from. And that's kind of what you want to be thinking with all of the random positions you get to or are in. Obviously, when you're in the middle of something and it's a bit of a scrap, you're not going to be in perfect spots. You're going to have to think on the fly. You're going to have to just do whatever. But when you have the chance and when you're able to spar at a kind of nice intensity. You want to be practicing, okay, my positioning. So this is second. This is another one that's decent. It's like your hanging guard, except a bit less protection, a bit more threat, okay? Really good to just lunge in a thrust off that. Apologies. Well, it's one of my videos. You know what I'm like. Everything's a bit of a fucking scramble, to be honest. So we'll just crack on. But yeah, so from my basic guard, I would be pistoning that out there and trying to come back. If something comes over, I'll hang. From the hanging, you just deliver a little overhead shot. I really like with this, step back and then deliver, because you just widen the angle a little bit. I don't know if you'll see here, but here, their sort of swords all in the way. If I step back, I've got a clear shot. You can't really see from this angle, but so trust me. Uppercuts and lovely. Uppercut into second, uppercut into your guard here. And that's about it. Okay, you're here, you might be there, you're probably here. Okay, very piratey, very straightforward, very whatever. Okay, soon as I lose my hand protection, and you can do this with a fucking saber with hand protection if you want. I'm going to grab Polish saber because they're more fun, and it means I don't have to touch that dodgy plastic stuff. When I've got less hand protection, so obviously I've still got a bar, so my position 1 is still pretty viable from this one, okay? But I will be looking to keep this further away. Because my hand has no defense out here, I'm going to keep it back more often. So your positions for single-handers that don't have hand protection are a lot more akin to something like a longsword. So you will have your sort of, you know, hand, wrist tucked into your hip type of guard here. You'll have your hanging positions are pretty much standard. You'll have your English open fight if you like, if you're bothered. You'll have your oxes, okay? Anything like that, low and hand reserved, okay? Because if I'm out here, I've got a lot more fingers available. I've got the same amount of fingers available. They're just harder to. They're easier to get to. Unless I've been shit in my saber fight, and then I'll have less fingers available. So yeah, but again, it's a similar kind of thing. You just really making sure, and with this one's cool because it's easier to get to some of your guard places because of the curve. Obviously, they're still not going to be the strongest. You still got to put the blade behind whatever. But anyway, getting sidetracked. But yeah, basically, it's almost the same. You're just a bit more reserved. Okay. Well, that's how you want to think of it. When I start bringing a shield into the mix, it's Viking because let's fuck it with top dogs here. When I start bringing a shield into the mix, yes, my hand can come forward because it's protected by the shield. And this is where an element of common sense comes in. The reason we have shields, bucklers, and things like that is basically to protect stuff. If I can protect my hand, I can stand in stupid positions. I wouldn't do this because there's not many options from there. But my hand can come forward more comfortably. Here, my hand can go wherever. It doesn't really matter. But again, I need to know where I can move without hitting the shield as well. So if you're looking at going into shield use or dual wielding or something like that, these reserved out of the way positions will be quite beneficial, because if you're used to coming out there all the time, you are going to clear the shield more often. Depends how big your shield is, to be honest. But yeah, when you look at the I-33 buckler stuff, then you can be more for like sword forward, things like that again. But yeah, counters that we do. So the main order of the blade counters. Okay, I hope this isn't fucking super proprietary information that I'm going to get sued for putting on YouTube or whatever. But the main basic ones, you got your basic bullshit parry riposte. So thrust comes in, I block it, I stab back. I'm not going to go into that in depth because look at any modern fencing. We have the high roller, which is most people's favorite, and that is just hanging guard, so get into that hanging guard position, and then I'll use the force of their blade, knocking mine round and strike. Okay, again, with a single hander, I highly recommend, even if you've got a shield. If you've got a shield, even better, but I'll just go through the main one. So I would step back with that to open up my angle more, bang, and then I'd step back again to retreat out of distance. Okay, so that looks a bit like this. So I would, my feet right first. I would block, step back, strike, and return. Okay, so I'm coming back to there. Very basic. Okay. Another one you can do with a single hander that's overlooked is like a high roller, but a high flicker. I just made it up now, so don't judge. And that is when you've blocked, if you block nice and strong, you step the opposite way and just flick the blade through. Okay. This isn't going to necessarily hit them if you're at distance, but it puts you here and you can deliver little thrusts from that second position, pretty much. Decent. It's not bad. You won't find yourself getting that off very often. Rising surge counter. So with Saber and stuff, you're very rarely going to sit in this position. You can do it, but the higher level you get and the higher level your opponents get, this is not going to be very viable. Okay, can happen, doesn't always happen. But the concept of rising surge is this is going to explode up and then I'm going to hit from there. Okay, I'm almost going to do, when we're looking at single-hander stuff, you almost end up in a high roller because you're not able to necessarily pull off the same Zverkawi type things from that position. My favorite, and if I do this for Saber, I very often do this at a distance, and I just, as something that comes for me, I send that in. Okay, so unlike the normal high rising surge, where I'm waiting for their attack to cleanly parry it off, I wait for them to throw a proffer, a kind of offering, a kind of light little test attack, and then I just completely capitalize on that and throw something through. Obviously, if I'm close enough, maybe I've just come down and I'm in a weapon range still and their strike's coming in, then I would use the false edge to knock that out of the way and come round, or just boom, boom, okay? So up, down, or round. The Molinet one I quite like. It feels a lot more natural. That can work, but that's much more fun and get lost. So yeah, what's the other fucking counter? Oh, you dreadnought stuff. So if you're in a bind, so when you're fighting with single weapons, because of the forward guards and things like that, you do tend to bind. Okay, you do tend to get into binds like this, but it's far less than in some of your longsword. Longsword, you really clash together, and then you both whatever. You're in this little middle area. You tend to stay in that kind of mid-ground bind situation less with single swords because it's a case of there's a lot more swapping and things like this going on. Okay, it's a lot more. It's just a bit quicker. It seems a bit quicker anyway. Obviously, you do still have the bind. It just doesn't tend to get used as often. So with Dreadnought, the idea is I'm keeping connection with the sword. As my opponent goes to leave, I snap cut in to just the closest possible location. Typically, we try to make that the line of attack that they've just taken. So if I've blocked on my outside, okay, and they leave, I'm attacking to that outside. If I've blocked on the inside and they're leaving the inside, I'll just drop it down that line. Okay, that's the idea. It's basically, it's like a stop cut almost, but after the fact. Okay, and the timing's fine on that. Again, timing wise with the single swords, I think sometimes it's better to just, as soon as you've touched, throw some out. But again, each to their own. The tempos work fine either way. Wait for them to move, bang, or just fucking attack them. I mean, that was a shit example. But it depends on your opponent there with the tempos and stuff. But those are the little considerations I'd take with single swords and sabers and shit when going against this sort of stuff. Obviously, if I've got a secondary weapon and I'm using my saber, I probably would still keep the saber out as a primary and use it primarily as a saber. Okay, if I was with an unprotected hand, less so, but I would use this as an extra and then use that to just create openings. Okay, I don't know enough people that do saber and axe, to be fair. Not very Viking, is it? But oh well. But yeah, you'd be fighting saber as normal, and then the axe would come in as a control method to just open up whatever. Doesn't have to be an axe. Could be a flintlock. Just showing this off because I got it. Or it could be your shields. Okay, saber and shield, ultimate cheat weapon set. But normal saber. Okay, shields in, bang. And that's the kind of idea behind it. If I am rocking about with two swords, like an absolute fucking Power Ranger, okay, let's say I got two swords, then I would be more reserved because I'm using the same space quite often. So I would want these to come back every time. This is very Kali Eskrima-esque. You just want to be out of the way yourself. It's very easy to just fucking get tangled if I'm coming in there and whatever. I mean, this is just me getting a bit sloppy now because I know the video's been going on for a fucking hour and a half. But I would genuinely be thinking bang, then out. As one goes out, one goes in. Unless, of course, I'd need that control. Then that would stay out and this one would shoot. With dual wielding, just my 2 cents on that. I really do believe in the sort of Kali Eskrima style where this is coming out and then anything that's gone out gets replaced and then I strike in, but I'm constantly covering that line again. Okay, I think it's the Sinawali drill or whatever. So I'm constantly trying to recover that same line because it keeps my control on the blade whilst freeing the next one up to deliver a bit of a kill shot. Boom. Bit of coordination involved there. Definitely something to look into. But yeah, I'm probably fucking going on way too much about this. But hopefully someone watches it and you find one little nugget out of that fucking minefield. So yeah, see how you go. My hands are about frozen off. I'm going to do one more video slagging off spears and then we'll call it a day, I think. Right, nice one, guys. See you in a bit.